Hello everybody, so for this video I'm going to talk about basic tactics. So here we have Hikaru Nakamura. He says puzzles are the best way to improve pattern recognition and no site does it better. He's referring of course to chess.com. So go to chess.com, log in, and if you don't have a premium account already, you should definitely get one. It costs a little bit of money, but you can get a 4-month free trial, and that'll give you access to all the site's features, including unlimited puzzles per day, which is what we're interested in. Although I recommend not doing it puzzles for more than an hour a day. I think it really starts losing value once you spend more than an hour on any area of your chess study. You should have a balanced approach. Anyway, so you go to the puzzle icon and you go to puzzles, and you go to, this is important here, so make sure you're on training mode, and you don't want to be on rated, you want to go to learning mode, because when you're in learning mode, you can select which types of tactical themes you want to work on, and since this is for beginners, we're only going to focus on 8 different types of problems, 4 of which are really what I consider to be the basic tactics. So yeah, in rated mode, it'll just give you a hodgepodge, random selection of all the, I think it's about 30 types of tactical themes they have, and I think that's just a really inefficient way of building pattern recognition to do random problems. So we want to just do, the effective way is to just do one type of problem at a time and do many of that sort of problems. Then you'll pick up the pattern more easily. It's really confusing if you're just doing a bunch of random problems. So anyway, let's start off with, so make sure you don't have anything checked. In the beginning, you'll probably have all themes checked, but once you click on one thing, that'll automatically uncheck because you're doing one theme, not all themes. So let's do hanging pieces first. So a hanging piece is something that is undefended. This one's a little bit complicated. Most of them are simpler. Anyway, you take the knight and then you take this pawn and you take the bishop. So the key there was to see that you could go for this exchange, but I didn't like that problem. Most of them should be simpler. Oh, I see why. My bad. I had it as 200 to 500. So notice that on the right here, you can specify the rating range you want the problems to be. So for our purposes, we want it to be 200 to 500, not 200 to 5,000. That way we can do really the simpler, crystallized versions of the problems, because once you get higher rated problems, it starts combining themes. You'll get multiple themes in one problem, and we just want to do one theme at a time, so we're keeping the rating low. So let's try that again. So we're hanging pieces, we're just going to look for a hanging piece. So which piece can we take for free? It's this bishop. Do another one. Which piece can we take for free here? We could take this knight, right? But then our rook ends up being hanging by his queen. So we go here. So one thing I'll mention is that some of the hanging pieces, it takes 2 moves to prove that it's hanging. And this is related to the video I did on counting, which I think was not that well done. And, well, I had these types of problems in mind when I did that video, because you can practice counting with these types of problems anyway. So that video is kind of redundant. But anyway, let's do a few more of these hanging piece problems. So we look for the hanging piece. This knight's hanging. Let's take it. Do one more. All right, which piece can we take for free here? This rook is hanging. Let's take it. This bishop's hanging. Let's take it. Oh, this knight's hanging because our bishop is attacking. Let's take it. That's checkmate. All right, let's move on to the second basic tactic. So make sure you uncheck the one you were doing before if you're intending to switch. So uncheck hanging piece. And now we check forks. That's the next type of tactic I want to work on. So a fork is when you attack two pieces at once that are typically of higher value than the piece you just moved. So we're going to move our pawn here, and we fork his bishop and knight. So no matter what, it's a good trade for us because they're both higher value than the pawn. So we win a knight for a pawn. That's 3 for 1. We gain 2 points. Very good. Do 2 more of these. So another common fork is the knight fork. And they're tricky to see, and so you have to practice. So we can fork his king and queen with our knight here. So his king must move because he's in check. And then we take his queen and we win a queen for a knight. 9 for 3. So we gain 6 points. All right, last one of these fork problems. Another knight fork, so now we're forking the rook and queen. A rook for a knight is a good trade once again, so good trade for us. Okay, next we will work on skewers. So uncheck fork, and we go to skewers. Okay. Oh, 1 second here. Okay, good. I was making sure. This is my 4th time recording this video and I messed it up. I want to make sure I'm not messing it up again. Anyway, so an idea with a skewer is that you attack something on a line, usually the king, and you get whatever's behind it. So we check his king on this diagonal and we get the rook that's behind it because his king must move. So that's what a skewer is. Sometimes you do it with a rook or a queen because rooks and bishops move in lines. So here his king and rook are lined up, so we get a skewer. Do 2 more of these. Here his king and rook are lined up on the diagonal, so we go here. Take the rook behind it. Oh, 1 more skewer. This one takes 2 moves to complete, but we see the hanging piece here, the pawn. We take it, and now we have a skewer behind. See, his king and queen are lined up now. So we take the queen. All right, for the last of the really basic tactics, we will do trapped pieces. So uncheck skewer and go to trapped piece. Start. Okay. So for these ones, we just want to try and find one of his pieces that is trapped. And we'll notice that his queen doesn't really have any safe squares, and we can trap it with a rook, although first this involves a rook sacrifice for his bishop, so it's kind of a complicated problem, but if you do the math, we're trading 2 rooks for a bishop and queen. Rook's worth 5, so 5 plus 5 is 10. Bishop and queen, bishop's worth 3, queen's worth 9. 3 plus 9 is 12, so we gain 2 points from that exchange. So that's something you have to do when you're counting. You have to be able to do basic math like that until the value of the pieces becomes very instinctive. I'll do 2 more of these ones. So here, yeah, his queen just got itself trapped like this. So it won't have any escape squares. This is another queen trap. I'll do a couple more of these ones actually because there's a certain type of problem I'm hoping will come up. Yeah, this is the one. So here we can trap his bishop with our pawn. This is the most common type of piece trap that I see in beginner games. You can trap the bishop with a pawn like this sometimes. All right, so for the rest of the basic tactics we'll work on, they'll all be checkmates. And in the end of the video, I will put in the description the list of the 8 themes I want you to work on. More on that later. So uncheck the trapped pieces. And let's go to 4-move checkmate patterns. This is the most simple one. So if you recall, one of my previous videos I showed the 4-move checkmate, and it involves using the bishop and queen together to attack the square right in front of the king's bishop, and that's checkmate. So checkmate and checkmate. Okay, so that's that one. It's very important to know for beginners. Now we'll work on this one, advanced checkmates. So these ones are a little bit more unorthodox. So these are a good exercise. So like this. So this is kind of another version of Anastasia's mate, where the knight is taking away the escape squares and then the pawns are blocking the rest. And the rook finishes off the king here. Another one, this is one they do a lot. The knight on this square and then the rook, supporting the rook for checkmate. This is basically the same thing. I'll do one more of these. This one, okay, well this is checkmate. Okay, so finally we'll just do mate in 1s and mate in 2s. So go down to mate in 1. So mate, and mate. And then we'll do some mate in 2s. So uncheck mate in 1, checkmate in 2. And this is mate in 2 here. And mate in 2. I'll do one more, mate in 2. Remember, for the rook roller from my endgame video, well, this is basically the same thing. Okay, and that about does it. That's all 8. If you want to challenge yourself, you could do mate in 3s, but I'm not going to ask that from you. Those are a little trickier, but for a challenge. So, you know, to end, I'll say that you could raise, we're keeping them very simple, right? But you could raise them to like impossible levels, like 2,000 to 5,000, but we don't need to do that for our purposes. But eventually, I'll give you a method. I want you to master all of these basic ones, like at least getting them right 90% of the time. And in general, once you get 90% right, you can go ahead and bump this up to you can bump them up 100 points. So from 200, 500 to 300, 600. And once you get 90% on that level, you can move it up again another 100. When you're first starting off, I think you should set up the rating range so that you're getting about 80% right, I think is the sweet spot, because there the problems are a little bit challenging, but not too challenging so that you're missing a lot of problems. And I think that's a stimulating environment or exercise so that you're getting the optimal amount of learning taking place and optimal pattern recognition building. So yeah, they say that tactics are to chess players what musical scales are to musicians. So yeah, the rest of your chess game highly depends on how well you can master tactics. Eventually you want to master all of these 30 or whatever types of tactical themes, and you want to be doing them at the highest level. Just keep on increasing the rating, but for now we'll just do 200 to 500, and we'll go from there. So I'll put the 8 tactics I want you to work on in the description, and I'll see y'all later. Thanks for watching. Peace.